All right, how you guys doing? We are talking Kansas for the Cup Series here. Now I just got a bed in my room, and the room is a mess. I'm moving stuff around. I'm even getting a bookshelf later today, but so I'm not gonna record. The room is a mess. But let's go ahead and talk about Kansas. And I think everybody understands my look on the month of May. With all the racetracks are going, we're going to be playing the same guys each and every week. And if we certainly see improvement, or if we see some type of step up from the Fontana and Las Vegas time to now, you clearly want to make note of it, but I really don't see a lot of major advantages or changes happening between teams. I know, Penske was running three different setups at Dover, and Blaney, I think, got like 27, 28 fast laps or something like that, but he mainly just ran, basically in the same spot all day. Do we see Penske make changes to the other teams, possibly going in that same direction of what they were bringing? I mean, maybe, but still, even with that, I don't believe we're going to see Cindric. I don't believe we're going to see Joey Logano, good old Joseph really be up there competing for fast laps or a win. Even Blaney, maybe some people are going to swing back to Blaney just because kind of softly speaking, out of nowhere he was optimal, in a sense of nowhere being like he hasn't really performed anywhere decently this year. Basically just sure, like Geico 500 and the Martinsville race, 59, 65 points, but really past that, we haven't seen Blaney really compete to be optimal this year. Um, the biggest takeaway is where were these guys running? How fast were they? Okay, when we're looking at Kansas, when we're looking at Darlington, and certainly for the 600, which I would really rely off of Dover for, specifically because this race went green for so long. I understand we had a lot of wrecks in the beginning, but look where guys ran. Look how they performed. Look where guys should have performed. In Discord, there was one guy in. I mean, I'm saying, like, I know it's like this in other Discords as well, where people are like, dude, man, fuck Kyle Larson, man, that guy cost me so much money, I ain't playing him at all, man, fuck him, whatever. I think that is when we look at Dover, okay, seriously, take a step back. Don't be thinking so emotional, okay? When we looked at Dover, Kyle Larson was the highest owned driver, okay? Now, whether that be because people were seeing that he had place differential, whether that be people seeing that he had a fast car at the previous 1.5s this year, and just that he's good at Dover in general, like, there's a lot of reasons to like Kyle Larson, okay? Now, when we look at Kyle Larson and we see that Larson was performing pretty decently, okay? The man never got up to the front. He never really did anything. He was just getting through the field. And then, he gets involved in the wreck with Chastain and Poole. Larson in traffic had 12 fast laps, okay? The crash that took Larson out of this event, happens on lap 82, okay? So in 82 laps, Larson had 12 fast laps, okay? So, in my opinion, and you can argue this or not, whatever you want to do, but playing Larson was the right call. I don't foresee a reason, and if you want to talk yourself into being like, well, I told you Faden Larson was the call. No, you didn't. My main man, my main brother-in-law, what do you, like, uh, we can see clear as day that Larson was the correct play, okay? Uh, what am I going to do entering this week? I'm going to be playing Larson. I told you, this is a situation where this month you play the exact same guys, and if people want to fade Larson because he got taken out in a pretty random accident, I mean, by all means, feel free to not play Larson. But I see no reason to not play Larson. I see no reason to not stay heavy on Larson. Um, I just don't see it. I don't understand that thinking at all, because Larson was the correct play. His speed showed it. Sure, he price wise, or not price wise, like I played a lot of Larson and Byron together, so a lot of my Larson lines that scored like point 0.4 points was carried to the cash bubble and cashed just because I had a lot of William Byron as well. But playing Larson was the right play. I don't understand yet again why ownership was so low on some people. Like, similar to last year, I don't understand what people are looking at. And why am I going over Dover so much? Because it's the same thing here at Kansas. The same guy's going to be fast. Why was Byron at 16.4 ownership? It had to be the pricing, right? There's no logical reason for him to be that low when Larson and him have been the two fastest cars all fucking year. It makes absolutely no sense at all. I understand Chastain being underowned. Did get there, had some speed. We've seen some improvement between the beginning of the year to now. I think this speed is real. It's a shame that we didn't necessarily get to see what Suarez had. He said he liked the car. I fully believe that something broke on it, just the way it happened. Also, secondly, it was very funny how like did the broadcasters not watch the race when they were like, oh, Logano probably blew a left rear tire. That's what put him on the fence. What the fuck are you guys talking about? Clearly something blew up under the hood. You got oil all over his tires, dude. We got flames coming out of the hood flaps before he even gets in the fence. What are we talking about here? So like, it's a shame that we didn't get to see a ton of laps from Suarez, but I have to imagine they're going to take a lot from what Chastain ran, mainly because he, ran up front and really was hunting down Byron in this race, specifically on the longer runs. I mean, Byron had a good car, had the better car certainly for like 40, 45 laps, and we'd see, Chastain take over right before the end of the pit stops and stuff like that. But who do we like entering Kansas? It's going to be Kyle Larson. Should be, honestly, the favorite. William Byron as well. I would implore you to play those two together. Okay, that's just how it is. Regardless if they have place differential or not. Even more so if they start up front. If we get qualifying at Kansas, which we have rain the area again, but if we get qualifying for Kansas, I think you should absolutely play a ton of guys in the top half of the field. Okay, that's just how it is. I think that's what you should do. I think that's how you should approach it, so on and so forth. When we look at Kyle Busch, unfortunately, he had the speeding penalty. Had a pretty decent car, especially in terms realistically, Kyle Busch had a top 6 car. Okay, so we need to look at it in that sense, because even with the heavy damage that he had, he was still able to run through the field at certain points, and certainly he was able to get through the field on the initial run. Kyle really got killed on the long runs due to the damage. But in terms of what that car still had, we were able to see him get through the field, drive up to like 15th, 16th, and then pit strategy and stuff happens there. But Kyle Busch was there. I'm happy with what I saw from Kyle Busch. I have no idea what the heck Austin Dillon is doing. Backup car, possibly no laps on it, possibly. But a huge discrepancy between the two RCR cars in the event there. Why am I going over the previous race so much? As I said, I think you should absolutely ride and die by that stuff. Who else was fast in this race that we want to attack at Kansas? Okay, Martin Truex Jr., obviously. Happy to see him back in victory lane. It's a darn shame. I can't retweet my. I just want to see. I don't even remember what I typed. Something about Sherry and Truex and stuff. Either way, good to see Truex back in victory lane. Hamlin was there. Bell, I'm more concerned about Bell. Truex certainly had the speed, him and Small. Hamlin certainly had the speed, was able to get through the field, but Bell just didn't necessarily have it. Very similar to what the other have it in terms of competing with his teammates. That is, Bell just didn't have it. Just kind of ran in the top 10 all day, never really did anything. That's a bit concerning. Good to see speed from Keselowski. Good to see speed from Buescher. And specifically, look at this race here, because the race went green. The fact that it went green and we were able to see how many people went a lap down, and I understand we had I think it was 3 guys get the wave around and get back in the lead lap, and then everybody else took the wave around because they were down 2. But for the most part, your top 10 in speeds here are the guys you should focus on. If anything, I find it a bit of a disappointment with Chase Elliott. Not sure if that's lack of practice. Not sure if that's coming off the injury. Not necessarily because his leg's hurting. Like, it's not that. Just is he not back in the form of things? Because I was actually very, very disappointed in Chase Elliott's performance. Just because he was running 8th to 14th all day. Couldn't get past that bubble of getting in the top 8. But Chase Elliott should be there. Very, very interesting run by Ty Gibbs and Bubba Wallace. I think we're just seeing the Toyotas probably do what they always do around this time of year and catch up on their deficiencies at the start of the year. And that's one thing Toyotas are good at, or the TRD center is good at in general. Specifically coming off of the Fontana and Las Vegas opening races. You have a month and a half basically until you get back to an intermediate track, and the fact that we were able to see Ty Gibbs run that well was very, very, very impressive. was happy to see. Man, I couldn't understand why people didn't play McDowell. People didn't want to pay up for drivers this week. Um, but for the grand scheme of things, entering Kansas, it's Hendrick with Josh Berry included, because Berry performed very well. You should really honestly take this as a good indication of what he's going to be bringing in this car while he's in the remainder of it. Summoning for Alex Bowman. But Hendrick in general, I want to target Hendrick. I'm very open to targeting JGR. I'm probably going to actively start giving them a little bit more fast laps moving forward. Not necessarily gigantic, because I was already factoring that in, but I will certainly be projecting the JGR guys for slightly better than just to hopefully even out with, not that I was under projecting them and stuff, but I think we should actively be considering the Joe Gibbs racing cars at this point. With the two favorites probably being Hamlin and Truex. RFK, I think they are going to be able to maintain running positions inside the top 15. It just depends on where they end up qualifying, but I will probably be projecting Brad and Buescher to finish probably 8th and 9th going forward. Not because they finished there this weekend, but I think that's a great placeholder of where their finishing position should be at. Same thing with 2311. Probably going to have them as top 15 cars moving forward. We're seeing that the back of the field really get stagnated, and they can't really do any passing. So, especially if we end up qualifying and we don't have drastically, like somebody truly messes up a corner or something, I think it's more pronounced in this car than it is even in the Gen 6, of where, you couldn't pass, in the Gen 6 and stuff, and even last year at the short tracks. I think it's because, this car's been out a year and a half now. Teams have had time to understand it, get a feel for what it does in the draft, so on and so forth. And I think passing in the field is even going to be more difficult now moving forward, because when you look at this race here, sure, you had guys like fall through the field and stuff, like Nagano fell like a fucking anchor, Briscoe fell like an anchor, but even so, like, McDowell starting in the back of the field, to where we have seen him consistently been able to, maintain a top 15 running position, only was able to get to 22nd. Harrison Burton, somebody who is typically, running anywhere from 17th to 24th, drove through the field and then, got stuck halfway up through the field and stuff. So when we're looking at projections, when we're looking forward at these intermediate tracks this year, I'm probably going to be more aggressive on people not being able to gain a massive amount of place differential points, especially if we do get qualifying and stuff. And I think it's absolutely imperative to start really trying to honestly get 4 guys of the Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, RCR, Trackhouse, 2311 in most of your lines. And we're probably going to be stuck playing. And LaJoy has true speed. I haven't looked at the salaries yet for Sunday, but that's not necessarily important, because the value range will probably be determined, or we'll probably be stuck with actually, let me just look if they do have the salaries up real fast for DraftKings for this race here. And the reason this is important is because I think that's really going to dictate where we're able to go with our drivers. If I can load this stuff up. Specifically, if we have very little options in terms of value play at the bottom. Let's see. So Larson, okay. So here I'm looking at salaries right now. Byron, Hamlin. I guess they have Reddick because he's ran well at this track, and Hyde. I think that's kind of overkill. I think Reddick's overpriced. Larson and Byron very easy to work together. Truex at 10,000 easy to work together. You got it. I'm telling you right now, play a shitload of Chase Elliott. I'll probably be having a lot of Chase Elliott here. Barry, probably have a lot of Barry. That's just how it is. McDowell. Okay, so yeah. So I mean, here, this is the same fucking value plays we're at here. So 2 things. One is very, very unfortunate, very rare that like a Rick Ware car gets destroyed like that. Very unfortunate that Poole was just killed. I think Poole was actually very viable in this race. It's a shame that we didn't necessarily get to see that play out, but people were, getting stupid, wrecking out, blah, blah, blah. Entering Kansas, if you want to, and you see them starting last, if you want to play Blicky, Poole, Yaley, I think we could very easily go for it, especially because we have the bottom of the salary back. We're 4,500, 4,600. We're seeing that. I'm not going to be playing Ty Dillon, I can tell you that much right now. In terms of the $5,000 ranges, Haley and LaJoy are clearly probably your best bets for guys who can probably have the highest ceiling, as in because Burton is probably going to qualify, anywhere from 22nd to 19th. Um, but your 5K range is really going to be dictated by whatever projections you use, and it's going to be very heavy on uh, probably just one or two guys. All these guys are pretty identical in terms of what their potential is, outside of LaJoy, because LaJoy is a really, really good car in general. Anyway, the reason I'm saying this is because just thinking out loud, thoughts, looking at things I want to do, I probably want to experiment more because I want to have so many potential lap leaders in this race. I'm going to really experiment with building lineups, including one of Balicki, Poole, or Yaley, and probably my favorite guy in the 5K range, whoever that may end up being. And the reason being is because I just want to actually absolutely jam in the top guys. Like, for example, if you go Larson Byron, which, as I said, I think you should attempt to do that. Let's just use Truex as an example. So that's, you got your three most expensive guys, 10.9, 11.2, and 10,000. Leaves you 56, or leaves you 59 on average. Even if you go into the 5K range, we're playing in the low, or we're playing in the 5 and low 6 ranges. If you go to Balicki, Poole, Yaley, we'll just use Poole for this example. That's 6,600 left for your last two drivers. I really do believe that's how you should go about this race, in terms of either going to one of the mid-salary guys, or building around the 5 and 6K ranges. And yet again, that presents a situation where we have a pretty small pool. We're not really, if you're paying up for people, you're not really getting to the 7K range. Okay, you're not really getting to the 8K range, and you're probably not getting to at least certainly the high 8K range. So we got a pretty small pool. I think if you want to get different, your best bet is doing that in the value range with the 4K and the 5K drivers, and that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm not going to worry about getting different up top. I just think that's kind of stupid. Just play Larson, play Byron, play Elliott, play Truex, play Chastain. Fit your guys in there. You know, that's really my 2 cents. It's the same approach as Dover. It's going to be the same approach at every race this month for the Cup Series, but that's really just my approach there. I should have everything set up so the room doesn't look like it's a fucking tornado by the time Saturday and stuff comes through. So we'll be doing live shows again, but that's mainly why we're just doing audio only. Hopefully you guys had a good week, and thank you for staying subscribed on the Patreon. If you haven't already, feel free to join me if you like the content that I do, if you like the live shows, if you just like me in general. And I will see you guys in the next video talking about the Xfinity Series, or no, the Truck Series at Kansas, whatever series it is. I'll see you guys in the next one.